I stepped into the office that Monday morning, the chill in the air biting through my light jacket. My coffee steamed in my hands, oblivious to the storm that awaited me. The office buzzed with muted chatter, the usual clatter of keyboards and ringing phones, but something felt off, like the air itself had thickened, charged with tension I couldn't yet name. The HR manager's voice came over the intercom, clipped, professional, but cold. "Can you come to my office, please?" My stomach twisted into knots as I walked the familiar hallway, each step heavier than the last. Whispers rippled through the cubicles. I could feel eyes on me, curious, judgmental, suspicious. When I entered the meeting room, the whispers faded into silence, replaced by an oppressive stillness. A thick audit report landed in front of me with a soft thud. My hands trembled as I lifted the cover, the glossy paper catching the fluorescent lights. The words jumped out immediately. Financial mismanagement, blame assigned. My chest tightened. I scanned the pages, disbelief paralyzing me. My name wasn't there. Someone else, someone I'd trusted, was accused. Shock melted into humiliation as the room seemed to shrink around me. Colleagues' eyes darted between the report and me, silently measuring, assuming my ignorance, my incompetence.
Betrayal cut deep. I realized the cruel truth. Everyone, friends, coworkers, even family friends, assumed I was at fault. The CFO's gaze lingered on me, sharp, weighing, the unspoken accusation pressing down like a leaden weight. My lips parted, but no words came. I left the room, heart hammering, my footsteps echoing in the hallway like a countdown to some inevitable disaster. My phone buzzed violently in my pocket. A message from my niece glared back at me. "Hope you're ready for questions." Layer upon layer of humiliation settled over me. Social, professional, personal, all colliding in a single suffocating wave. I caught my reflection in the glass wall outside the meeting room. Fear and fury tangled in my eyes. I replayed every conversation, every decision, every interaction, trying to trace the moment it all spiraled out of control. The weight of unjust blame pressed against me like a physical force, igniting a quiet, simmering rage I hadn't felt in years. Late that night, I sat in my car under the dim glow of the parking lot lights, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Silence enveloped me, broken only by my own shallow, ragged breaths. And in that silence, a vow crystallized in the pit of my stomach. I will reclaim my truth. The betrayal, the public shame, the quiet whispers of doubt, I would not let them define me. Not tonight. Not ever. I remember those childhood visits to my aunt's house like they were etched into my bones. The scent of fresh-baked bread, the soft hum of a ceiling fan, and the quiet authority in her voice. It was a home where kindness and control coexisted in a delicate, almost imperceptible balance. Every gesture she made carried lessons I didn't fully grasp at the time. Lessons about reading people, understanding motives, and guarding your own heart. Whispers of caution lingered in the corners of those rooms. "Trust carefully," she would murmur, her eyes sharp beneath a veil of softness. Not everyone wears their intentions on their sleeve. Betrayal and hidden agendas weren't just concepts. They were warnings embedded in lullabies and bedtime stories. Now, seeing her at the center of this scandal, I feel a surge of protective anger. She has always carried herself with dignity, deflecting criticism that should have never touched her. Even when family members whispered behind her back, even when circumstances tried to pin failures at her feet, she remained composed, unyielding, quietly unbreakable. I think back to the financial struggles she endured, how she absorbed blame that wasn't hers, shielding others with a courage I failed to appreciate as a child. And me? I grew up overshadowed by louder, more assertive relatives, my own insecurities amplified in their shadow. I endured my own share of small humiliations, sacrifices I silently bore to protect those I loved, unaware that these early lessons were shaping my ability to survive, to plan, to seek justice. I remember subtle betrayals I witnessed but chose to ignore at the time. Tiny fractures in trust, small lies brushed off as inconsequential. Those moments planted seeds of distrust that took years to fully root. Emotional scars from being blamed for minor family incidents now resonate in adulthood, each memory a reminder of how easily innocence can be punished while manipulators hide behind facades of respectability. Patterns repeat themselves, and I see it clearly now. The innocent always carry the weight, the guilty slip away with ease. Past attempts to confront injustice ended in failure, teaching me that strength alone isn't enough. Strategy, patience, and precision are essential. I recall a mentor, a figure who quietly guided me, teaching me how to read intentions, anticipate moves, and strike with calculated timing. My private journal, once a sanctuary for scribbled thoughts, now reveals the full spectrum of my emotions: unprocessed anger, lingering guilt, and a growing desire for vindication. Early signs of my own cunning, once hidden behind polite compliance, now emerge with clarity. I understand, finally, the depth of manipulation that has shaped my family dynamics, the invisible webs that ensnare the unsuspecting. Every memory, every lesson, every scar converges into a single, burning realization. I am ready. Ready to turn the tables, to reclaim dignity, to expose truth, and to ensure that justice, long delayed, finally prevails. I moved quietly after that, like a shadow that learned how to breathe without being noticed. I started collecting everything: emails buried in old threads, financial statements no one bothered to cross-check, witness accounts whispered in hallways when people thought no one was listening. Every document felt like a brick. I wasn't building anger anymore. I was building a case. People noticed the change before they understood it. I spoke less. I smiled less. My focus sharpened into something uncomfortable. Colleagues stopped making jokes around me. They didn't know why, only that something in my eyes refused to look away anymore. When I finally confronted my aunt, the room filled with heat. Her voice trembled between restraint and pain as she said, "They want this to be mine. They always do." That moment snapped something inside me. This wasn't just about numbers or reports. This was about dignity, about how easily the world sacrifices the quiet to protect the bold. As I dug deeper, the discrepancies stopped looking accidental. Transfers that didn't align, approvals that bypassed protocol, adjustments timed too perfectly to be coincidence. The truth emerged slowly, but when it did, it was shocking in its audacity. The real culprit wasn't hiding. They were daring anyone to look closely enough. Nights blurred together as I sat alone, the glow of my laptop burning into my eyes. Spreadsheet after spreadsheet told the same story: intentional sabotage disguised as oversight. Someone had engineered this mess, confident the blame would land where it always did. Then the tips started coming. Anonymous, careful, short messages pointing to accounts, meetings, names never mentioned out loud. It wasn't one person, it was a network, and they thought they were untouchable. I tested the edges first: small confrontations, casual questions, watching faces closely as I spoke. Some people lied too quickly. Others avoided eye contact. A few said nothing at all, and their silence screamed louder than words. I cataloged every reaction, every omission. Friends and family started pulling away. They said I looked tired, obsessed, unhealthy. I let them think that. Isolation sharpened my resolve. I wasn't doing this for approval. I was doing it for justice. At a public meeting, the tension snapped. A smug comment, a sideways glance, a subtle jab aimed straight at my aunt, delivered with practiced innocence. The arrogance was almost impressive. They believed the story was already written. I said nothing. I swallowed the urge to react. Every insult became fuel. Every sneer became confirmation. I wasn't ready yet, and I refused to waste this moment on impulse. Old memories surfaced as I planned. Every time silence was mistaken for weakness, every injustice quietly endured. I remembered all of it. I cataloged all of it. Rage pushed me forward, but patience kept my hand steady. I started documenting everything, not just evidence, but emotions, the fear, the humiliation, the slow rise of clarity. It felt like I was preparing to tell the truth, not just to a room, but to the world. Inside me, two forces collided. One wanted to burn everything down immediately. The other demanded precision. I chose precision. Exposure too early would only protect them. Then betrayal struck from someone I trusted. A leak. A warning passed to the wrong ears. The stakes jumped instantly. I adjusted without hesitation. Changed paths, closed doors, rerouted plans. I didn't plan a direct attack. I planned a mirror. I would let them speak, let them posture, let their arrogance unfold in public. All I had to do was give them the stage and make sure the lights were bright enough. And when that moment came, the truth wouldn't need my anger to carry it. Their own confidence would be enough to destroy them. The phone rang just as the city outside had gone silent, its glow piercing the darkness of my living room. My heart jumped when I saw the number. It was a whistleblower from the finance department, someone brave enough to cross invisible lines. "I have everything," the voice whispered, "everything to prove she's innocent." Adrenaline surged through me as I opened the files, each document confirming what I had long suspected. My aunt was not the villain they painted her to be. Transfers, approvals, hidden logs, all aligned perfectly to expose the real culprit. Relief collided with fury. The betrayal was clearer than ever, but so was my purpose. The manipulator's arrogance had been their armor, their confidence their shield. But now it was unraveling. Every lie, every calculated omission, every manipulation laid bare in irrefutable detail. Patterns emerged, connecting every shadowed act to a single orchestrator. I felt a grim satisfaction, knowing the truth was a weapon more lethal than anger. I reached out to a trusted executive, someone I had long respected but never fully involved. As I shared the evidence, their eyes widened, a mix of shock and recognition. This changes everything," they whispered. And in that moment, I gained an ally, an unexpected force that would help tilt the balance. Relief washed over me, but it was sharper than comfort. It carried the heightened urgency of justice. I could almost feel the weight of the humiliation my aunt had endured, and the need to rectify it burned hotter than ever. A secret meeting was arranged. The boardroom felt like an arena as I stepped inside, tension crackling in the air, the silence louder than any accusation. I could almost see the manipulator's smug anticipation, unaware that the stage had been flipped. I realized then that the public humiliation that had crushed my aunt could now be reversed in a spectacular, irreversible fashion. The power dynamic had shifted, and I was ready to orchestrate every moment. Psychological warfare began quietly but unmistakably. I noticed subtle shifts in the manipulator's expression, fleeting unease as colleagues exchanged glances I had carefully engineered. The whispers were spreading, small, strategic leaks planting seeds of doubt, eroding credibility from the inside out. Power and moral obligation mingled in a heady rush. Every detail mattered, every expression counted. The manipulator had underestimated my precision, and that miscalculation would be their undoing. I rehearsed my internal narration over and over, visualizing the ultimate reveal like a cinematic climax only I could orchestrate. Each phrase, each pause, each carefully chosen document plotted to hit with maximum impact. Past fears, the shame, the whispers, the helplessness, had transformed into calculated confidence. I no longer doubted my ability to control the narrative. Every interaction became a calculated move in a chess game, each gesture and word loaded with purpose. I steeled myself, knowing the moment of public revelation was imminent. When truth finally dominated lies, it wouldn't just correct a misjudgment, it would leave an indelible mark, a lesson in accountability, and a vindication long overdue. The boardroom, the whispers, the tension, they were all part of the stage I had meticulously prepared. And when the spotlight finally hit, the manipulator would realize too late that their arrogance had written their own downfall. The boardroom lights dimmed as the projector flickered to life, and every breath in the room seemed to stop with it. I stood at the head of the table, spine straight, hands steady, my voice calm in a way that surprised even me. Page after page appeared on the screen, timestamps, approvals, transfers, each one undeniable. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't rush. I let the evidence speak while I guided it with precision. The manipulator tried to interrupt, then corrected themselves, then contradicted their own words. Lies began to collapse under their weight, unraveling in real time. Gasps rippled across the table. Faces hardened, eyebrows lifted. The shock on my colleagues' faces fed the tension, amplifying every stuttered excuse, every panicked glance. Legal counsel stepped in without drama. Procedures activated. Audits were corrected. Responsibility was reassigned where it belonged. The room shifted from speculation to certainty, from rumor to record. The power that once hovered around the manipulator drained away, replaced by scrutiny that cut deeper than any accusation. Public humiliation reversed its direction. Questions came fast, eyes lingered. Conversation stopped when the manipulator entered the room. The attention they once enjoyed turned sharp, invasive, relentless. Social consequences followed swiftly, and there was nowhere left to hide. My aunt sat quietly as the truth settled around her. Tears gathered in her eyes, not from weakness, but from relief and pride colliding all at once. Years of silent endurance finally lifted. The weight she carried for others unfairly, visibly fell away. I made no grand speeches, just subtle, precise remarks that traced the pattern of deception without ever raising my tone. Each sentence landed exactly where it needed to, illuminating years of manipulation with surgical clarity. Witnesses spoke up, voices trembling but firm, their testimony wrapped around my aunt like a shield, reinforcing what the evidence had already proven. The narrative locked into place, unbreakable. Every insult she endured, every whisper behind her back, every doubt cast in her direction came full circle. The return was quiet, devastating, and absolute. An internal bulletin followed days later, outlining the corrected audit results. Names were reassigned when there were so. Records amended. Justice was no longer private. It was documented, shared, and permanent. I kept notes as it unfolded, capturing the moments, the pauses, the looks. I could already feel the story forming, cinematic and sharp, powered by truth. Colleagues approached me differently after that. Respect replaced suspicion, conversations softened. Meanwhile, the manipulator sat alone more often, isolated by the very system they thought they controlled. Financial stability returned. My aunt's reputation stood clean, protected not by excuses, but by facts, exactly as it should have been from the start. Later, alone, I sat in silence and let the moment wash over me. I thought about where this began: humiliation, doubt, quiet rage, and where it ended: empowerment, balance, closure. The satisfaction was real, but it wasn't reckless. I knew the line I'd walked, and I knew I'd stayed on the right side of it. Justice didn't require cruelty, it required truth and timing. As I packed my things, a few quiet nods came my way from people who had understood my strategy long before the reveal. No applause, no celebration, just acknowledgement. And that was enough. Life returned to a rhythm that seemed normal on the surface, but beneath it, satisfaction hummed like an unspoken secret. Every glance, every interaction carried the quiet weight of victory, subtle but undeniable. My aunt and I shared moments of silence that spoke louder than words. Over coffee, over shared meals, over the rare, quiet afternoons, we connected through the trials we had endured, the humiliation we had weathered, and the triumph we had earned together. Every smile, every look carried relief and unspoken pride. The manipulator faded from view. Their isolation was complete, consequences rippling through professional networks and social circles alike. Whispers of accountability followed them, a reminder that arrogance and deceit could no longer shield them. I found myself reflecting often, emotions colliding in unpredictable ways. Guilt over past indecisions, rage at the injustices endured, and triumph for the justice now realized all intertwined, creating a complex, almost dizzying closure. I began mentoring quietly, sharing lessons without fanfare. I taught observation, patience, and strategy, letting others glean insight from my experience without exposing the full story. My guidance became a quiet force, shaping awareness and caution in subtle ways. Financial audits continued, but with transparency now firmly enforced, a lasting change seeded by my influence. The system that once allowed deceit to thrive now had walls of accountability built with precision and care. My own reputation strengthened as well. Trust returned among colleagues, no longer tentative, but solidified by the truth revealed and the justice executed. My aunt expressed her gratitude in ways that were deeply personal. Small gestures that carried immense weight, a hand squeeze, a quiet thank you, moments that confirmed the emotional vindication she felt. Subtle reminders of betrayal lingered around us, not as shadows, but as markers, cautioning us to remain vigilant. Every reflection, every memory became a guidepost for the future. I wrote constantly, journal entries filled with lessons learned, insights discovered, and echoes of emotions still resonating from the journey. The process itself became cathartic, a way to cement understanding and clarity. Family dinners felt different now, quiet, measured, with tension lifted, but history remembered. We laughed in small ways, shared stories, but beneath it, awareness of what had transpired and what we had overcome lingered like a silent rhythm. Inner peace settled slowly, born from justice served and dignity restored. The humiliation that had once threatened to crush us now stood as a catalyst for growth, strategy, and patience. I reflected often on how every insult, every doubt, every whisper of the past had sharpened my resolve and honed my cunning. Humiliation had become a teacher, and revenge a measured, deliberate execution. The emotional landscape finally balanced itself. Trauma was acknowledged, revenge executed, and lessons internalized. Every corner of my mind carried the proof that justice could be precise, patient, and unforgettable. Personal empowerment solidified. Confidence in navigating human dynamics, complex, unpredictable, sometimes cruel, became instinctive. And in that quiet certainty, I knew we had not just survived, but we had grown stronger, wiser, and unshakably prepared for whatever came next. I looked straight into the camera, letting my gaze linger. Sometimes the world misjudges us. Sometimes truth waits in the shadows, I say, my voice steady, carrying the weight of everything endured. I recount the path we traveled, the humiliation that cut deep, the betrayals that shook trust to its core, and the meticulous journey toward justice that required patience sharper than any blade. Every moment, every calculation, every silent observation had led to this point. I reflect on the power of patience, on the quiet strength found in strategy and inner resolve. These were not just lessons, they were lifelines, the tools that allowed us to survive, endure, and ultimately reclaim dignity. To anyone watching, I continue, observe carefully, trust your instincts, confront injustice thoughtfully, not recklessly. The world often rewards those who act with precision, not impulse. The story underscores a delicate truth. Revenge is a fine line, balanced between justice and moral responsibility. The wrong approach can destroy more than the guilty. The right approach restores balance without sacrificing conscience. I share a personal lesson, quietly revealing how family dynamics and professional deception shaped me, how being underestimated, blamed, and ignored taught me observation, patience, and strategy more valuable than any education. Power, I remind the viewers, often lies not in loud confrontation, but in subtle observation and deliberate, calculated action. Every detail matters, every reaction counts, every moment is a choice. I lean closer to the camera. If you've ever been blamed unfairly, remember, the truth has a way of finding its stage. My words hang heavy with experience, urging reflection and vigilance. I encourage the audience to share their own stories, to create a community built on learning, resilience, and the quiet satisfaction of truth prevailing over deceit. The camera pans slowly, capturing my aunt's face, a serene smile of vindication lighting her eyes, while the manipulator sits isolated, facing the consequences of arrogance and deceit. Justice isn't always loud, it's precise, patient, and unforgettable, I say, letting the truth settle with the audience as a lingering echo. The emotional tension fades into reflective calm, the camera lingering on faces that carry relief, closure, and quiet triumph. I gesture toward the desk, the lamp flickering as I close the audit folder, symbolic, deliberate, the chapter officially complete. Subscribe, I add softly, a promise of more stories to come, each a lesson in hidden betrayal, calculated revenge, and the meticulous reclaiming of justice.